Here with Northwestern State Athletic Director Greg Burke. And Greg, here in the middle of the novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of questions going around. Thank you for your time, taking time out of your day to answer those. So let's just jump right in. Everyone's wanting to know, will there be a fall sports season, not just at Northwestern State, but around the country?
Well, I've been asked that question once or twice or several hundred times, and the answer as of right now is yes. Now, to make that happen, there are a lot of moving parts that have to fall in place, and most importantly, among those parts is having a pathway that's going to ensure health and safety for everybody involved in having athletic events, primarily, most importantly, our student athletes, but also our coaches, our staff, and anybody else that's involved or would be in attendance at an athletic event. I mean, I think that already folks know the NHL, MLB, the NBA have started to play games in pretty sterile environments, and even then, for some, it's worked out really well, and for others, maybe it hasn't so much. And so I think we've got to figure out and make sure we're doing it the right way. There were already conferences in the country that have said we're not going to play, but there are also a number of conferences that have either said we're going to play maybe with a delay, or in the case of the Southland and NSU, as of right now, Jason, the answer is yes. We plan on hosting Incarnate Word on Thursday, September 3rd in the NSU 2020 home opener.
That's a game that's been scheduled for a while. We had the schedule out earlier in the year, so that's been a date a lot of people have circled. But ultimately, who and how does this decision get made in the midst of a global pandemic?
Well, it's kind of a three-headed monster, I guess, to use a phrase. I mean, it's the NCAA, it's the Southland Conference, and then it's NSU, and kind of tied at the hip with NSU is the state of Louisiana and the phases that Governor John Bel Edwards has been implementing. But starting with the NCAA, a couple of weeks ago, the Sports Science Institute put out a resocialization to sport document, 15 to 20 pages, a lot of good information in there. A lot of it, candidly, we were already doing, but I think they wanted to be sure. It's very important for the NCAA that there is some across the board messaging. As recently as this morning at 10:20 across my email, as well as Dr. Maggio's and some other athletic administrators, and all the way across the country, the highest ranking authority, the NCAA Board of Governors, with the direction of Dr. Mark Emmert, the CEO of the NCAA, they issued a directive that said if fall sports and fall championships are going to be held and conducted, then here's some bullet points that have to happen. And you might imagine some of them are very obvious. A lot of it has to do with social distancing and things of that nature. Testing, which we'll talk more about in a minute, is very, very important. And there was also some information in there about whether or not student athletes felt comfortable playing. And that really is kind of timely because just yesterday, when I talked with the NSU Demon football team, I was very explicit to them that if for any reason they had a concern about participating in sports this year, and this will be the same message I'll give to the rest of our teams as I continue to address them through the month of August and into September, but if they have a concern about anything related to competing or practicing or being a part of sports, they have every right and total understanding on our part for them to opt out, and the scholarship that they're on remains intact. Obviously, they have academic standards to uphold, but it's the right thing to do, and made that very clear to the football team yesterday. But that's one of a number of directives issued by the NCAA Board of Governors this morning.
You touched on it, very timely. In fact, when can fans, we got a little bit of direction this morning with that email, when can fans know? Is there a drop dead date or a time that you would tell them you feel confident saying we are or we're not? We're going to know the future of fall sport.
Well, the second big head on that three-headed monster, the Southland Conference, I mean, as a group of athletic directors, we spent a whole lot of time. We've been very cozy with each other over the last 4 months.
Via social distancing, of course.
Social distancing, of course. A lot of Zoom and WebEx meetings, as everybody might imagine. But we've talked a lot initially. It was a lot about championships and budgets and things of that nature. But more recently, it has really focused on the fall and are we going to play football as well as all the rest of the other sports. And really the linchpin, in my opinion, to all of that is the testing. And the NCAA, I mentioned the resocialization document, made it very, very clear that it's a recommendation But I think the word recommendation is in bold letters and bright lights. It's a recommendation that 72 hours or at least once a week before any competition, student athletes need to be tested for the COVID-19 virus. And we have been spending a lot of time as athletic directors exchanging ideas individually. I've spent a lot of time researching different options, safe options, looking at cost as well, but number one priority being safety. And even within the last 36 hours, I think we actually have maybe had a revelation on an idea that a way to do this that we had not known about before. But the bottom line as a conference is we've got to determine that, Jason, because if we don't do that, we're not going to play. And then, of course, the third part of that three-headed monster is NSU internally with consultation with Dr. Maggio, even our sports medicine staff. Jennifer Kelly is the director of our campus COVID team task force. Carla Walker is the director of our health services. Jason Drury, our sports medicine folks, and all the way over to the Natchitoches Regional Medical Center. Dr. Phyllis Mason, the chief medical officer. All of those folks are going to have input on the NSU athletic program regarding the testing and our ability to compete. But, I mean, right now, as I sit here, we are 29 days away from that September 3rd opener. So things have got to happen sooner than later. Like I said, this breakthrough, that's another word I use, revelation, this breakthrough in the testing is something that I think is going to be very, very good for us. I talked to another group of 5 conference located in our region, and they have actually already, I mean, they are on board with it. I made a phone call to the appropriate source to find out exactly how we, quote unquote, sign up for it. But I think once we do that, then I think that the next step is on our campus. We got a lot of people on our campus. I mean, we've got the Spirit of Northwestern, we've got spirit groups, we've got physical plant workers. We have a lot of people that are a part of game day, not to mention our staff, you included, that right now are kind of sitting in the on-deck circle, to use a baseball phrase, waiting to find out, number one, if, and number two, when. But I think it's going to happen. I would say, as I sit here on August 5th, I would definitely say within the next several days, we're going to have clarity on the 2020 fall sports season.
You touched on it to kind of revert back, the importance of the partnership with NRMC, to be able to bring them in. They were here roughly 3 weeks to a month ago walking through the facilities. How important was it for your team to be out ahead of this and to have instituted some of the protocols that you've probably seen in the NCAA mandates and recommendations?
Once again, we try to be experts because we care, but they're experts because they are. And it was really good because back in May, we started to develop plans, a department plan, a voluntary workout plan. And then when Dr. Mason and Sarah LaCour came over, and Sarah's a VP at the hospital, when they came over and walked around, it was really reassuring to hear Dr. Mason as we walked from place to place, where this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, and to have her say, y'all got this. I don't really have a whole lot. She made some recommendations, which were good, and we expected that, but for the most part, she said, and which is a credit to our administration, it's a credit to our sports medicine staff, but she said, y'all have got a lot of good things in place, and most importantly, you've got your student athletes' health and safety right at the top of the list, and that's what's most important.
We know come September 3rd, come September 1st, when volleyball opens its season against Louisiana Tech, if there are going to be fall sports. As you mentioned, we're 29 days away from football. We're 27 days away from that volleyball season. Things have looked different since March 14th in every walk of life. That will be no different whether you walk into Prather Coliseum, the Lady Soccer Complex, or Turpin Stadium.
No doubt about it. I've said this over and over. We've said it as a staff. We've talked to our coaches, and I guess I'll use football as an example. I've talked to Coach Laird and his staff, and I've said, you have to kind of think out. You're going to be running through the purple smoke. The Spirit of Northwestern is going to be playing that fight song. The video board's going to be blaring, and that's exactly, your adrenaline is going to be flowing, and you're going to be ready to kick that ball into the air. But how you get from here to there is going to be different than you've ever done before, than we've ever done before. I'll just take a home football game. Mobile ticketing. I mean, from the moment you get your tickets, mobile ticketing is something we've not done. We're going to do mobile ticketing. Concessions, going to be a lot of pre-wrapped type items. Restrooms, which we feel we've done a good job with, but we're going to take extra care to the restrooms with attendance and just regular sanitation. within, especially really around the stadium, but you take the chairback seating area, we're going to have to do social distancing. I know that Mike Jakelich, our director of ticket operations, has communicated with our season ticket holders that, hey, for this year, you may have to move a little bit. And if you don't, if you're not crazy about where we move you, that's okay. You don't have to buy those tickets this year. We understand next year your tickets that you've had will once again be your tickets, but limited sideline access, because first of all, the teams normally go 30 to 30. Well, now the teams are going to go pretty much goal line to goal line to give them an opportunity to stretch out and social distance just a little bit more. So we've always tried to limit sideline capacity, but we're really going to have to do that now. No on-field presentations. Game workers and staff workers are going to wear PPE. Of course, we're going to have the hand sanitizing out. We're going to recommend people wear a mask at least until you get to your seat. And so it's going to have a different look. But hopefully the look that's going to happen the best is at the end of the ball game, the Demons are going to have more points than the other team, and we're going to have a W on the board.
We can do a little shameless promotion here. The NSU Demon app will be probably more important than ever. You'll be able to access your game day program through there. Again, you mentioned the mobile ticketing. And these are all facets that I don't think a lot of people think about. You're in the middle of COVID-19 thoughts. You're in the middle of COVID-19 precautions every day since the middle of March. That's not all you've been doing. I know there are other facets to your job that you're having to handle as well.
COVID has been very consuming, but at the same time, to use the phrase, you've got to run the department. I mean, and my MO as an administrator is to be very involved and very engaged. We have external staff meetings that you join every Tuesday morning, and I sit in on those meetings, and I don't just sit in, I participate and provide input. And of course, Dr. Haley Titano, our deputy athletic director, runs the meetings and does a great job. But that part of our department and the profile of everything we do is so important, the external part, that I'm engaged in that. I've spent a lot of time, as you might imagine, with our sports medicine folks. Eric Schwager, our new strength and conditioning coach, has spent a lot of time in my office. They've done a tremendous job. Mike Doty, our facility staff, of continuing to sanitize areas after they're used. As you might imagine, upper level administration, there has been a lot of time that's spent on this because it's that important, but at the same time, trying to move other projects forward as well. I mean, we've got a $6 million sports performance project that affects strength and conditioning and sports medicine. And you know, back, like you said, in March, it got put on the back burner like a lot of stuff, but we're putting it back to the front burner because that's going to be huge be very exciting and huge for our university and for our department. And working on some initiatives with our student athletes. Caitlin McKenna is working on trying to do some kind of a virtual welcome back event, which we think is kind of special. We've always done, but like I said, it's very important to, as much as the COVID is very time consuming, also to me, I can't separate myself from running this department and being engaged every day with what everybody does, and finding a lot of hours to make it work, but it's all worth it.
Well, virtually you've done coaches and staff meetings throughout this time as well. And I know that's probably something that gives you a chance to see everybody, of course, through a video screen and a computer screen, but throughout the summer, that was something I think that probably kept you a little bit sane in the middle of the insanity.
I think it kept everybody sane. I think we enjoyed, like you said, seeing each other, but I think more importantly, and something that we talked about as a department through the entire, especially when it first hit the April and May and the teleworking and being very separated, was to stay connected and to stay engaged. And Haley shared a leadership article with me, and there were some different points about how to lead through a crisis or through a pandemic, and not just as the director of athletics to lead, but everybody, whether you were the director of media relations or you're the assistant football coach, everybody can be a leader. But one of the points that I think was most relevant among those 10 points was that said, do not let your engine get cold. And I think that was what was really special about our department, is because I tell you what, I grew up in northeastern Ohio, and you get up on a January or February morning and your car's been sitting out there because, of course, your wife always gets to put her car in the carport. You know, being the man of the house, you leave your car out in the cold, 25 degrees below, and then you try to crank that cold engine and hope it cranks. But we didn't have to worry about our engine recranking because we stayed very, very active with those those weekly WebEx meetings. I also think part of that, and candidly, Jason, was for me as athletic director to communicate and keep the coaches and keep our executive staff members very well informed. And I think that that has positioned us very well to move into the fall and continue to be successful.
Speaking of fall, let's look ahead to that. Again, you mentioned 27 or 29 days away, depending on what sport you look at from starting. I'd be remiss to mention that soccer will open September 1st on the road, but they'll open the same day as volleyball does. But let's pull out your crystal ball. You don't have to make a prediction on the Browns or the Indians or any of your beloved Cleveland sports teams, but let's take a look at Northwestern State, the fall. Break out your crystal ball. Tell us what you feel here on August 5th as you look ahead for the next 3 to 4 months.
Well, I like a lot of what I've seen over the last 3 to 4 months, and I think that's going to be very critical, not just for us, but for a lot of people, because it's been, as you said, it's been a never before endured and lived through 3 to 4 months. But I think that our football coaches have done a great job of keeping our football team engaged. The speakers, I mean, we had Gary Reasons, a 2-time Super Bowl linebacker with the New York Giants, speak to them. A number of great speakers have kept them engaged and kept them inspired and motivated. Eric Schwager, as I said, has done a great job with the strength and conditioning. I think one of the biggest questions, obviously, with football is who's gonna take the snaps. You know, we had Shelton Epler for 2 years, a record-breaking quarterback, but I like the options we have. I see our football team making a move in the Southland Conference standings. I don't put a whole lot of stock in what people think preseason. I think we're going to be much better than that. Going to the other sports, I mean, you've got a soccer team last year with 23 freshmen and sophomores that played for the conference championship. Best season since 2005. You had an all-region player and sophomore Nicole Henry. The volleyball team had its best season since 2014. And you have Hannah Brister, who was the player of the year in the conference, the player of the year in the state. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that in soccer, Anna and Jess Job. And in volleyball, Sean Kirikoff. They were the Louisiana coaches of the year in their respective sports. And cross country starts as well. And of course, one of my favorite track and field athletes of all time, Shaylin Jones, is overseeing that group. And I tell you, that young lady has always been a winner. She found a way to win, and I feel like she's going to help our cross country team find a way to win and to take some strides, figuratively and literally, that are going to make some moves in the standings as well. So, you know, when you work in college athletics, you're in it for the young people, and I love to watch them compete. I've told somebody that I feel like most people, their kids grow up, and when they stop competing, and you don't go to the games anymore. But I'm blessed because I've got 400 kids, so to speak, and I enjoy, because I know them on a personal level, I know their families, and I enjoy being there to watch them compete, even something in the relationships with the alumni. We're sitting here providing, hopefully, some information to you folks that gives you an insight into what's going on, but there's a Facebook page, NSU Demon Football. It's got about 250 former players on it, and I'm honored. It's a membership only, I guess by request only, to get into it, and I'm honored that Rashard Booker and Cassius Pollard have let me be in there, and I actually was able to get on that page a few days ago and provide them with some of the same information we're sharing today. But I've been working in college athletics now for 42 years, and I think most people, and I know you're the same way, Jason, when you're in this business, it's all about those young people.
Absolutely.
And then the best part of the job, I've always said, is seeing them when they're here, and then keeping up with them as they progress with their lives. So it's exciting, and all this effort that all of us are putting in, get ready for the fall, no doubt is going to be worth it.
So if you're looking for any more COVID-19 information, how Northwestern State has handled that, go to our website, www.nsudemons.com. There's a banner that has everything COVID-related we've written, we've put out. This video will be posted there as well. You can also find it on our YouTube channel. Greg, thank you so much for your time. I know we just talked about you've been on WebExes, you've been on Zooms, you've been on this teleconference, that teleconference. I can't imagine what it'd be like if you had to actually still seed the women's tournament at this point with this going on. But thank you for taking the time out, and I know our fans and those who are watching certainly appreciate the candor and the ability to find out a little bit from maybe the insider perspective of what's going on.
Well, this is important. I know I speak for our entire department, our coaches, our staff, and our student athletes. Y'all, our investors, our alumni, our former athletes, our donors, our sponsors, season ticket holders, y'all are very, very important to us. So hopefully you found this insightful. But I'll just close by saying, if you have other questions, if you need clarification, I think I'm pretty accessible. I'm not sure that if you don't have my cell phone out there, you just need to ask somebody because somebody else, the first person you ask is going to have it. But I've always been very transparent. I've always been very, very open. So if I can help any more to provide insight, I'd be happy to do it. And we will continue to try to update you. And as we talked about, Jason, hopefully within the next few days, we're able to definitely put out there some concrete news about how we're going to move forward with 2020.
And hopefully we'll see everybody September 1st at Prather Coliseum, September 3rd at Turpin
Turpin
Stadium. Assuming Louisiana allows you in, we will have as many people within those facilities as we can. So again, Greg, thank you so much. And as always, Burke
Demons.